Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you all are enjoying Istio release week. Pretty exciting. Or Istio, sorry, not release week. Can make everyone panic. Branch cut week. We only have one item on the agenda so far, so if anyone has anything that they'd like to add as we get into it, we will start with Christian. Christian appears to not be here. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. Compression to XDSR PC. Anyone else struggling with the link to that issue?
GitHub is slow for me.
Works for me.
I'm getting 401s on it, which is weird. Okay, let's see. So this links to, this issue was opened back in 2023. XDS compression is a feature of gRPC. Of course, it's a trade-off because compression, while reducing pressure on the wire, increases pressure on CPU utilization.
It looks like from the history, the biggest challenge is we don't have tests to prove if this would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. He linked to a Slack message from the issue. Sorry, I can't share any of this with you because it's not working on Chrome for whatever reason. Is anyone able to read that Slack message?
Okay, it's in the general channel.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the way to read a Slack message is you send that link to yourself and then you click on the link. Normally you can see it on Slack.
Nice.
Okay, so looking at the message, I don't know if there's tests. I mean, he observed 2 megawatt for 400 resources, which is probably not surprising because we know Envoy config is huge. And I remember just having a few resources, it's like more than 10,000 lines of code. So 400 resources, 2 megabyte was probably not a huge surprise to us. And this problem seems only unique to Sidecar, right? Because we're more efficient on the ambient configuration, particularly for Z-tunnel.
Yeah, so looking at what his comments here in the doc, it sounds like he's just wanting to know if we're wanting to say outright no to compression, or if we're open to exploration in this direction.
Yeah, I think we are open with some data, which we don't have the data. That was my impression. Ian, go ahead.
I just wanted to note, I think we're either in process or recently completely got rid of the concept of a full push. And so everything should be delta now, which may help this in a completely different way.
Yeah, I feel like we've been doing Delta for quite a while now, but it's like unclear what Istio releases they are using. So definitely was validate that too.
Ian, do you know when we added deltas to LDS?
I am on mute. I do not know. Sorry.
Honestly, if this problem can be solved, maybe we should just ask him, you know, either you have move to latest Istio, and if the problem not solved, you know, you can try explore whether compression would be helpful, or just move to ambient.
So the remove concept of full push that that was just linked in the chat, that's an open pull request, which means it's not going to make it into 130. Looks like it's been open a week and has not yet had any reviews. Am I reading that right?
Yep, and I think that's the one I was talking about. I wasn't sure if it had merged or not.
Gotcha.
But it may still be relevant in the 131 timeframe, which is like probably most realistically when XDS compression would land as well.
That's
Unless
true.
we're gonna cherry pick that.
That's true. So I think I'm hearing kind of two things overall. Let's make sure that he still needs this after this lands, by having him run, if he thinks he may still need it, have him run a side-by-side test and kind of show us the results both on a network bandwidth perspective as well as on a CPU load perspective. And then realistically, especially if this is turned on behind a feature flag, it doesn't seem out of step with what Istio intends to be. For some users, it may potentially make sense to make that trade-off. For others, it may not, right?
You mean the compression is on the user flag?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, let me find the doc, update it.
Is the full push only effect for service entry? That's that we're still doing full push? Because Because I'm not sure. I mean, he mentioned 400 resource. I don't know if they're using any service entry. Just thinking out here.
He did mention in one of the forums, I think maybe it was Slack, that he had used sidecar resources to shrink down scope, and that helped for a while, but that his mesh has grown large enough that it's continuing to be a problem. And actually, would that shrink listeners or just endpoints?
Yeah, and also that doesn't mean they are using service entry, right? Because they could just using sidecar resource for services inside of the mesh.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Depending on if they're using single cluster or multi-cluster deal.
Liam, can you elaborate on what you meant about upgrades?
So we have this continuing thing that I need to investigate a bit more, but effectively our HPA, whenever we do an upgrade, goes to 60 instances of Istio because there's a lot of full pushes, basically. We're quite liberal with when we start to scale up, but 60, I think we're at like 50% on our HPA for CPU for Istio. But yeah, in our integration cluster, particularly where there's a lot of stuff, a lot of craft that could probably be cleaned up, we effectively get pinned at 60. So
yeah, so I mean, at an upgrade or a massive scale up event, it seems like you have to have significant bandwidth utilization across this is east-west traffic, so it shouldn't be multi-regional or things like that, or significant CPU utilization. So those are sort of the constraints, right? Because there's just that much information that has to get distributed, unless we were to come up with a whole new distribution mechanism, which is not in the cards for sidecar mode for sure.
we could also do it a bit more asynchronously. So we limit it to 1 delete a second in the API server. So we could also do like 1 every 5, and then we'd probably have less of an impact. But
okay. Shouldn't just be vague about trade-offs. These are CPU trade-offs. Did I kind of capture what we talked about here? Oh, and this is a placeholder for a link. Anything else we should discuss about Christian's requests? It looks like there's a pretty active chat today.
No, I think it's good.
All right. Next up is from Peter, who I believe is our release manager for 130. Our first alpha build for the 130 release is already available, only 2 days after branch cut. That's super exciting. So go ahead and start kicking the tires there. I know we'll be running it through some of our internal test suites. Moving towards, let's see, it says May 4th is code freeze, which usually means that the release is targeted for somewhere around May 11th, I think. Did I get that right?
May 12th right now. Yes, Mitch, thank you. You covered basically everything. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Peter, I noticed that those were coming through as proposals on the doc. I'd be happy to help make sure that you have edit access to our docs. Certainly, as a release manager, you shouldn't be having to ask for permission to tell us things. But thank you for your work there. That's really exciting. I'm looking forward to the 130 release.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll put PR just to add myself there. Thank you.
You need
You
to
actually
be
don't
in-
need a PR for getting into the Google Docs. We have a Google group that manages edit capabilities.
Okay.
And I will share that with you. Oh, but it's on GitHub, so I have to go to this other browser. Anyways, I'll do that asynchronous,
Okay.
so we're not all.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very
I
much.
can help as well, Mitch, if you like. Either way.
Oh, that would be great, Ian. My computer is, I don't know what's going on. Either my computer's bad or GitHub is down only for me, which sounds pretty unlikely.
Maybe you're on GitHub dog food.
This is retribution for something you've done. Personal GitHub problems.
Probably. You know, you mentioned GitHub dog food, Liam, but actually when like preparing a talk with GitHub for Amsterdam, I learned they use Istio to identify and flag any traffic that comes from GitHub staff. And all of those staff hit all the canary versions of all of their microservices end to end. So they do
Nice.
like a progressive rollout model. I don't think I would be considered one of those because usually they mean, you know, internal to GitHub, but who knows? It was pretty cool to see a pattern that we've talked about a lot and that I've seen here and there and find out that, you know, the platform I use probably more than anything else every day is also using that. It's pretty cool. Wow, we're only 23 minutes in. Any other topics for discussion before we wrap up for the week? All right. Well, thank you all for joining, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Thanks. Cheers.